Hi, I'm Carla Cannon, and I wanted to briefly go over why teaching textbooks is our math curriculum of choice. I really like teaching textbooks, hands down, over all the other curriculum options that there are for a number of reasons. First of all, I like that it is a spiral approach to math, and what that means is that every lesson that your child does, they will have a variety of types of problems. So even if they're learning to add and subtract decimals, they will still have something on whatever they've learned in previous lessons, maybe telling time or fractions, whatever it is that they've learned. So I think to me, that was an important aspect of it, because for math, I think they need to keep doing those skills repeatedly so that they don't forget them, because it's too easy to learn something and then forget it. And I think teaching textbooks does a nice way of integrating review plus adding in new concepts. So that's the first reason that I really like it. Another reason that I really like teaching textbooks is that it is on the computer, and that is fantastic for a number of reasons. First, it marks your kids' work as they go through the problems, and so I think it's really nice for them to know as they go through, hey, I got this wrong, maybe I'm not understanding this concept, and they can stop themselves before they go too far, especially when it's a new concept that they're learning. And so I think that's great. And as a busy mom, who has time and who wants to sit with your kid and check every single problem as they go through it? That's not time efficient. So I think that's really great that it's checks it for them. The other thing that's really nice about it being on the computer is that it teaches them the lesson, and you can see more in-depth reviews, but just briefly, the text will pop up on the screen. They have a chance to interact with it. They can put their answer in as it's teaching them the lesson, and so then they can see if they're grasping it right away. And doing their math doesn't depend on their reading ability, which is huge, especially if you have kids who struggle in the area of reading but are perfectly fine with math. You wouldn't want their reading to slow down their math progress. So for each problem, the computer reads it to them, and I think that's wonderful. So the fact that it's online or on the computer is great for me. They do have an online subscription that you can purchase, or you can get it as a workbook with the CDs. So that works really well for us. And another huge part about being on the computer that's great is it enables my kids to be more independent, and anything that they can do independently is wonderful. I can have all three of my kids doing math at the same time. We have multiple computers, so that works well for us, but they can all be working on it, and I can be in the room and I can kind of go if someone has a question and help them out, or they can just do it, and then I tell them, if you have a question about a problem, circle it and we'll go over it at the end. And so that works fantastic for us. So while I do love the fact that they can do it on the computer, I think it is wonderful to also have the workbooks. And so it comes with the workbook that I purchase and the CDs. There are 4 CDs per grade. And what I like about having the workbook is I don't have the kids actually write in the workbook, but it is a nice reference for me, because I can, if they're struggling with a lesson, I don't have to necessarily sit and watch the lesson with them. I can look in the workbook and they will highlight the key text of whatever they are learning in that lesson. So I don't even have to read the whole thing. I can just look at the main points, and it's nice because then I can say, okay, this is what they're learning, this is how it's been explained to them, and maybe I can come at it in a different angle, but it's nice to know what they've already been taught. So I really like that aspect of the workbook. The other thing that I think is great having the workbook is, like I said, I don't have my kids write in it, but I do use the workbook because I love that there are lots of problems. So if your child needs the extra practice, that is there for them. So that is wonderful, because some kids need the extra practice, and that's great that you don't have to supplement with other resources. There's lots of opportunity for extra practice. However, not all kids need to do every problem if they're grasping it quickly. So you will see here for every lesson, and I'm just showing you the grade. It's the grade 5 book here, but it's the same in all the ones we've used so far, and I'm sure it's similar up through their program. So they will have their lesson, and then there is the practice session, and I do not, and there's, you know, on this one they've got A through E practice problems, and unless we are having a problem with something that's new, we do not ever do the practice problems. So we skip those completely. And then what I found, you know, once they've kind of gotten through about grade 3, it takes them a little bit longer because they are doing, you know, long multiplication, long division, and it just takes a little bit more time for them to solve those problems. And so then my kids just keep a little spiral notebook. They write the lesson, and any problem that they can't solve in their head, they will write it out in their little notebook. They'll number it. That way, if they get it wrong, it's quick for me to go back and look at and see what, you know, if it was just a computation error or if they didn't understand it. So they write any problems that they need to in their notebook, and then I have started doing, and it just has worked really well, we circle whatever problems I want them to do for that lesson. So I go through and I circle the ones that are relevant. So you can see, you know, out of the first 7, they're doing 5 of those. And then when you flip the page, you'll see we skipped both of those. We went ahead and we were just doing pretty much every other problem because, for example, there was subtracting with decimals. Well, when my daughter was on this, she was doing really well with that. She didn't need to spend the time to do 4 problems. And like I said, I think it's great that the option's there if your child needs the practice, but I had her do just 1 out of the 4. And sure, it's a little bit more mom intensive because I have to go through and pick what problems I want them to do and just circle them. But it was motivating for my kids because I say, hey, you do this problem and you get it right, we're done. Of that type, then you're done. If you get it wrong, that means you need more practice. And I found that they were more attentive and did better because they weren't getting bogged down with, oh, and then there's another. There's another. So if your child is doing well with the program, I think that works out fabulous. Just circle the ones that are relevant. Sometimes I'll do kind of even and odd depending, but mostly it's just based upon what I know they can do. So if there's, you know, long adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, we normally pick one of those to do, and as long as they get it right, they don't have to do the other ones. So I think Teaching Textbooks is a great program for all the reasons I said. I like how independent my kids can be with it. I think the explanations and the concepts are great and very grade appropriate. And so if you are looking for a math curriculum that is really a quality program, and I've heard lots of good results of kids going on into college and university and how well prepared they have been using Teaching Textbooks, then this might be the curriculum for you. Bye.